My goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. How's that? Is that better? Do I have sound now? I forgot to turn on the microphone. I so apologize. I hope there's sound now. I got to tell you, it's been quite a time, so forgive me. And that's something I usually do before I even start, but hello, yes, she says, I hear you. Thank you. I am so grateful. So just thank you. I can't do this without all of you helping me out. This is a tough time for those of us who are sensitive. And you've heard me say it before, only about 20% of the population, according to many surveys, including one by the Wall Street Journal, only about 20% of the population is sensitive. And for those of us who are, this is a tough time. So, Brittany, thank you so much. She says you can hear me now. I so apologize for that. But just to go back to what I was saying welcome. I'm so glad you're all here. Our question for this week is one of your questions about are we assigned death dates corresponding to our birth dates? Do we choose them? Are they chosen for us? We're going to look at that. Also, we will get a message from my spirit guide, Phillip. This is an oracle book, and each page, as many of you know, is just a wisdom. And so we will get that. And then last week, I promised to give you a vision that one of our viewers, and also a private client who's become a friend over the years, but she had a beautiful vision about the children who were murdered in the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. So I want to tell you what her vision was too. But I want to first of all say thank you for those of you who come live, for those of you who are unable to come live, but you leave comments below. I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful for the thumbs up. Thank you. As you can tell, it is easier for me to stand in front of a large group than to do this electronically because your energy feeds me. So thank you for feeding that energy electronically. I think it's a little bit more difficult this way. But I was talking to someone earlier today and I said, I always think of myself as being an outgoing introvert. And so that introvert part of me, this is tough. So thank you because you guys sustain me. And, only about those surveys, including one by the Wall Street Journal, tell us that only about 20% of us are sensitive. So those of us who are sensitive, we have to hold each other's hands to help us get through these times because these are not easy times for us to get through. So thank you, you guys. Without you, I couldn't do this. So thank you, Johanna, for letting me know there's no sign and for letting me know you and Britannia. There is sound now. Okay, here we go. Philip's question. By the way, if you have questions, just put them in the comments below. We do like questions of a general nature, and I may have already said this. Forgive me if I did. But if they're of a personal nature, just give me a call and we'll get you set up for an appointment. All right. When we enter this world on our birthdays, are we also assigned, or do we choose a corresponding date of death when we will return to spirit world? So do we have a death date? Is it corresponding to our birthday, or are we assigned a death date? Let's find out. Phillip says the easy answer is yes. However, there are conditions that require us to say yes and no. Of course. How can two contradictory answers both be correct? Let us explain. Those beings who work in concert with their guiding counsel while in spirit world and also follow through with fulfilling that which they come into body to do will leave the body on the appointed date. This allows the person to make an easy and successful transition into spirit world from the earth dimension. So if we're listening to our intuition, if we also while in spirit world, worked with our council and set up those dates, our transition is going to be easy. Phillip goes on to say, however, for those who jump into life in human form without complete preparation, while still in spirit, will not have a plan, so to speak. This, of course, is not advised, as human life is often difficult, and even more so for those unfamiliar with their helpers and guides in spirit form. The other group, so that's the first group, those who just jump in without preparation. And yes, that is possible, unfortunately. And I even know of times where there was a preparation to go into a person's a mother, and somebody else came along and jumped into that mother, and those are the difficult children, and have difficult lives. Anyway, we go on. Phillip says, excuse me, the other group who do not pay attention to their transition date are those who are aware of their planned mission, but choose to ignore it to the point of thinking either they know best or a lack of confidence in their ability to live the pattern chosen. These last two categories, and those categories, you either think you know best or you don't have confidence in yourself to live your mission. These last two categories make for a more difficult transition from human form to spirit form. This is not to say transitions are not successful. It is to say it is more difficult, for plans have not been made. This comes out of the human ego, which is not erased from consciousness in spirit world. The ego tells the person they are not good enough. This telling yourself you are not good enough results in a lack of ability to act in a manner your soul mission requires. Reason to start finding out we are good enough, isn't it? It manifests in two ways. One, by letting the world see your slumped shoulders and lack of confidence, or by pretending you are greater than all others. So remember, the ego tells us we're not good enough, as well as telling us, you know what, you're better than everybody. So both of those are ego, and the ego hurts us. When it's not to say get rid of the ego, it's to say keep it in balance. Keep it in balance, because we need to have that. We need to fulfill our soul's mission. And if we don't feel we're good enough to do it, or if if we express that, it's all what Phillip is saying. Let me step back here. What Phillip is saying is the ego tells us we're not good enough. And so what we do with that is we either slump our shoulders and say, I'm not good enough, or we overinflate and say, I'm better than everybody. And both of those are expressions of the ego. It's not to get rid of the ego. It is to balance it with our human and our spirit nature need to be in balance, so that we can deal with, we are good enough, but let's not think we're better than the rest of the world. Phillip goes on to say, as many have heard, there are 7 times that are open for the spirit to leave the body during any one lifetime. 7 times that we can choose to leave. Why would someone choose to leave when the earlier times are open? So what Phillip is saying here, that again, if we have set up with our spirit, in spirit world, with our council, with our team, if we've set up our birthday, we've set up our death dates, we have 7 different times to leave. But why would anybody choose the first time or the second time or the third time? Why not wait till all 7? He goes on to explain that. There are many reasons for this. One may feel they have completed their mission, which, even babies can complete their mission. Or, for example, okay, I hear the question when I say even a baby can complete its mission. What if a baby just came in to teach its parents about love, and they learned love when that child came into their world, or when the child left the body early? They may have learned love. That would fulfill a mission. Or, Phillip goes on to say, or they may feel human life too difficult and they need more training. Circumstances change and free will is always in play. So we can come into our life and we can, that third time comes up and we say, I need more training to get through this, and choose to go back into spirit world and then choose another body. That's allowed. Whenever a human decides to transition, that which they believe, and this is important, listen, that this will take away that sense of death for you if you have one. Whenever a human decides to transition, that which they believe they will meet is that which they will meet. This belief, however, must be real. Wanting and pretending to believe something is not the same as true belief. If you profess love but hate your neighbor, you do not believe or live love. So your transition experience will not be that of the person who brings their thoughts back to love when they stray. In other words, what Philip is reminding us of here is he's not saying we live in love 24/7. In the human world, that's pretty difficult for most of us to do. What Philip is saying is that when we experience anger, and we want that balance. But one of the things we have to remember is if we've never experienced sorrow, how are we going to have compassion for someone when they're in pain? So we want to be able to have those experiences. We don't want to live in them. And when we feel the anger, we want to just look at it and say, okay, this is what anger is. Then we can understand someone else's anger, but we don't want to live there. So then we say, you know what? I'm choosing to let go of that anger and change it to love. This is what we're doing with our whole lives, our whole process. It's not, if we live in the sorrow, we're going to get depressed and not be able to accomplish anything to help ourselves, the world. If we live in what I'm going to say is la la land, we're still not going to help the world because we're up here and saying, well, nobody has to experience pain, which isn't true. We're human. We experience pain. So we grow in compassion. We grow in love. But we want to have the balance. We want to have the whole experience and exchange it for love. I hope that made all kinds of sense for you. All right. Philip goes on to say, there are those who knowingly or unknowingly leave at their appointed time in what may seem to be a quick manner. There are also those who must take longer to prepare themselves for the transition. There is no right or wrong way to leave the body at the appointed time, as long as love is present. If there is any question of the success of a loved one's transition, prayers of love are of aid to them. Simply sending sincere love from you and wishing them on their journey is all that's required. So, Philip, I want to read those last couple of paragraphs. And by the way, for those of you who do have a greater curiosity about about spirit world, one of my books, The Found Child, is really a journey through spirit world. So you might want to get that. Please do. The Found Child. It's on Amazon. So back to these last couple of paragraphs, because that's always my favorite from Philip. There is no right or wrong way to leave the body at the appointed time, as long as love is present. If there is any question of the success of a loved one's transition, prayers of love are of aid to them. Simply sending sincere love from you and wishing them well on their journey is all that's required. So whenever we have a loved one, two-legged or four-legged, winged one or those with fins, we're going to mourn, and that's all right. It's all right to grieve because that gives us compassion to understand someone else's pain of grief. And speaking of grief, but we don't want to live there. We want to let that heal. With Daisy, as you know, Daisy, my beautiful dog, made her transition recently. 2 weeks now. Yeah, 2 weeks today. And Daisy, my heart is at peace because I know she's at peace, and I have certainly had signs of that. But that doesn't mean I don't miss her. That doesn't mean I never cry. It doesn't mean I don't still talk to her thinking she's still there. Of course I do. And that helps me understand someone else's grief. That's what I mean by not living there, but not avoiding it either. Okay. This is from Judith, and Judith isn't with us today, but she's often with us live. And this was after the terrible shooting at the last school in Uvalde, Texas. And here was her vision she had. I was meditating, praying, and crying for the little souls lost of, and we have permission to read this. She was here last week and said it was all right to read this. I was meditating, praying, and crying for the little souls lost to violence at the school and their grieving families. I was worried about the children's passing because I know that when there's a sudden violent death, souls can be confused and sometimes need help to transition. I had a vision. In it, Jesus, appeared to me. He showed me all the children gathered around him. Jesus' light and love glowed around them. Jesus said, "Do not worry about them. We have them all. We are caring for them." The two teachers were with them also. Then I asked about their family, friends, and the surviving children who witnessed this horror. Mother Mary appeared to me, and she showed me her cloak over them, and she said to me, "I am comforting them. I am understanding losing your child to violence." Well, that was quite a vision she had, a beautiful vision, isn't it? Whatever visions you have, whatever your heart tells you to do, continue to send prayers in whatever religion, or like me, non-religion. My religion is love. And if that is your religion, send love to these children and their families. Hello, Lexi Luna. She says, "Hi, Diane and Phillip, sending love your way. Thank you. Fabulous and fantastic Friday to all watching." She wishes all of us. So I promised you a message from Phillip from this book. This is our Oracle book, and we're going to open right there. You see what I did? We just kind of let our fingers go over the pages, and then we open. Hello, Awakening with Susan. She says, "My religion is love as well." Thank you. Thank you, my sister. Awakening with Susan. Yes, my religion is love as well. And it's all right. I'm okay with people, whatever religion they have. I have friends of pretty much many religions, and non-religions. I have friends from all over the world and all over the country and here where I live. And as long as you practice love, it's whatever your beliefs are, okay, but let's practice love. And Awakening with Susan says, "I do as well." And I think she's referring to all the friends of many religions. So what I'm hearing is right because we have two choices, right page or left page, and I'm hearing right. So right is for everybody. But if you heard left, that's a message that you need to pay special attention to. So here we go. Here's on the right. Others interact with you from the level in which they express life. If you live on a different level, will you not then interpret from a different perspective? This goes back to that 20% that we mentioned earlier. Yeah, 20% of us are pretty much acting and reacting on a different level. And I think that puts a responsibility on us to be extra compassionate and extra understanding and listen with compassion and understanding. Listen with love. So I'm going to read that again. This is for everybody. Others interact with you from the level in which they express life. If you live on a different level, will you not then interact from a different perspective? All right, my friends, if you heard left, you need to hear this. Without a receiver, there is no giver. Without a receiver, there is no giver. I want to elaborate on both of these. The right one, others interact with you from the level in which they express life. If you live on a different level, will you not then interact from a different perspective? I think I was in my late 40s or maybe even my 50s when I got that. I was probably still in my 40s because I actually was in my 40s when I wrote this book, but it was years later before it was published. And it was hard for me it took me all those years, late 40s, to understand 40 plus years understand that not everybody thinks like I do, or feels like I do, or acts like I do. And that was a hard thing for me to really get. But when I got that, I was then able to step back and try to see from the other person's perspective and recognize what I was feeling, what I was thinking, how I was reacting to a situation might be very different from the other person. And here in the US, we have certainly seen that politically for the last several years, but certainly for the last 5 or 6. Without a receiver, there is no giver, for those of you who heard left. And I want to say, at my age, we were taught somebody gives us a gift and we say, oh, you shouldn't have. Well, think about that. If I give you a gift, I expect you to say, thank you. But how do you feel if you give me a gift and I say, oh, you shouldn't have? Well, maybe you shouldn't have. So be gracious. Stop saying, I don't deserve. Start saying, I do deserve. I deserve. Thank you for this love you're giving me. Thank you for this gift you're giving me. I receive graciously, because the receiver needs to be gracious so the giver can give. It's a back and forth, back and forth. Awakening with Susan says, when people lash out, it is about them, not you. Compassion is the best defense. You got it, girl. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, my friends. Thank you for the love that you add to the world. Thank you for being with us today. Those of you who come live, I'm so appreciative for your comments. And those of you who make comments below, thank you. I answer them as soon as I can. Thank you for the love that you send to me. And to Lily, who's being quiet today, isn't she? And thank you for the love you receive from us. Together, we can make the world a kinder place, a more compassionate place. And I thank you for all you do to help that. Until we meet again, I'll see you next week. Bye for now.